patient and he was awake the whole time. So he is doing remarkably well. So he's in the office today, canceling laptops that we tried to order and are back ordered and ordering new ones. So we're keeping him busy. He's earning his keep. I'll tell you that much.
Okay. Well, on our behalf, let him know that we're glad he's home and
I will.
And back with us. That's my thing to read here. I'll call this meeting to order. This is the January 19th, 2021 meeting of the Johnson City Public Library Board of Directors. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are meeting virtually and are being recorded as allowed by Executive Order 16 by Governor Lee. Please indicate your understanding that this is our official meeting by saying yes.
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
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 Is that everybody? Okay, great. We're here.
I think we need to do a roll call for that, actually.
Okay,
I'm prepared. So Tony Warner,
here.
David Gamer, Sarah Davis,
Yes.
Jennifer Dixon,
Yes.
Susie Williams,
Here.
John
Or
Hunter,
yes.
Scott Jeffress,
Yes.
Georgita Washington,
Yes.
Darryl Carter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, our first order of business is the approval of the minutes that Jennifer has worked on along with Kathy. You all got a copy of those, or are there any errors, corrections, anything with them?
I move we approve the minutes. I read them.
Thank you, Sarah.
I
Second,
second. I second.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. And Sarah, could you do the treasurer's report?
Yes, I can. So, whoops. Wait a minute. Oh, Julia is sharing the screen. Thank you, Julia. So at the end of December, the total revenues are at 51.5%, and total expenditures are at 49 3/10 of budgeted amounts. Vacancy savings are still being realized in the personal account group, which is 4% under budget. Some line items and account groups are over the amount where they should be at this point in the fiscal year. The proposed amended budget is going to resolve those issues with line items and account groups, and will give us a better start for the second half of this fiscal year. That's my report.
Okay, yes, we'll have, we'll save our questions for Kathy in a few minutes as we do the amended budget. Questions? No one, I assume, has any current immediate ones. Okay, could you do the Imagination Library, please?
Yes. At the end of December, the revenues are at 47 0.8%, and expenditures are at 51% of the budgeted amounts. We are waiting for a final total on the December Facebook fundraising campaign. Washington County reduced their funding by $7,500 this year. Every dollar raised is going to help offset this reduction in funding. In December 2020, 5,166 Washington County children received Imagination Library books.
Okay. We need to approve both of these reports and documents that you have there in front of you. Can I have a motion to approve both the library report for last month and the Imagination Library for last month?
So move.
We'll need them as two separate motions, actually.
Oh, okay. We'll do two more. We'll first vote on the library. Darryl made a motion. Was that seconded?
I'll second that for the library.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Okay, that is approved. And now we have the Imagination Library. Have a motion, please.
I'll do that.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Second?
I'll second.
Second.
All right. All in favor of the Imagination Library report, say aye.
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 And those approved? If you hear my dogs, they're approving too. Director's report, Julia.
Okay, hey everybody. So lots going on at the library right now. We have just kicked off our winter reading program last week. We started an Own Voices theme winter reading program. And Own Voices, and I think we talked about this last month just a little bit, was established in 2015, and it's a style of reading and celebrating authors who come from voices and represent communities that are not the dominant culture. So it could be people of color, immigrant status, differently abled, LGBTQ community. And so the concept is that by reading authors who have written works that feature a main character of their same group, you better have a sense of the experience of that person. So when we read a book written by an African-American woman, for example, we become immersed in what it really feels like. And there's a certain amount of authenticity that comes from her telling her story through the work. And so the hope is that it helps bring sort of a better understanding of what it is like to live another person's experience, recognizing that we could never know fully what it is. But reading a first person account of what it is like to be blind, for example, and move through life is a totally different experience from just simply imagining it. You know, we can exercise empathy, but becoming immersed in a work of literature is a kind of more powerful experience, I think. And so when the staff first started talking about this project, it was really in the early autumn and late summer. And at that time, you know, there was a lot of divisiveness in the world and in the community. And we thought this would be a really great way for folks to learn about shared experiences and find commonality among the different Own Voices authors. So we are in that program now. We kicked off at one of our virtual events last week. Joy, who used to be on our board, Joy Wilkerson, led a conversation about having difficult conversations, which was wonderful. And a lot of fun, good insight always from her. And so as we move forward in the program, each week we'll highlight a different group and have programs and reading lists that go along with that. And folks can get virtual badges. So it's all in Beanstack, which is our app that we use. So they can go through and log their reading and write book reviews and that kind of thing. Sadly, it is not like the summer reading program. There's not a bunch of prizes or anything. You just get the satisfaction of knowing that you're reading and you're bettering yourself for reading books and maybe coming outside your comfort zone a little bit. So we're really excited to see how this progresses and move forward with this program. And it's all ages. We've got stuff for kiddos and for adults. There's one program Thursday for children that we're doing, and it's like a virtual cooking class for kids, and we're going to learn how to make a Brazilian, I'm not going to say it correctly, but it's basically like a biscuit with cheese in it, and we're going to learn about Brazilian culture. So I'm super excited about that because I'm going to do it with my kids too. So fun ways to learn about different experiences of different people in our community. So looking forward to that, and we're kind of knee deep in that right now.
How many people were at Joy's Zoom?
So I think the reach, it's hard to tell because the interaction throughout it, like you can see when they're watching. And so people kind of can come and go. The way that we did it, it was Zoom, but then we did a Facebook Live of the Zoom. So it's kind of a weird way, but it actually works out really well because it's not like, you can feel very anonymous. So if you just want to listen to the conversation and learn, you can do that. But if you want to participate, you can use the chat or the emojis and things like that in Facebook to participate along with it. So I think the highest number I was tardy to the program, but then once I was on there, I saw typically around 22, 23 people were participating. Georgita was involved. You were there too, right? Yeah. So it was really cool though. And it was fun because I saw like somebody asked a question and I thought, oh my gosh, I recognize that woman from another like diversity conversation group that I was in. So that was kind of cool. So I think we're helping build a community in a way that feels really necessary right now. It's a good event. Any other questions about Own Voices? Okay. So other big things happening. Last year, we were left a considerable sum from the estate of Dr. Robert Clark, and we've been working toward a renovation of the Youth Services Department. The ball is still rolling on this, but these things have just taken time. Essex is doing the work for us, and in this area really are the best fit for what we need. And we've been talking to the folks at the city about it along the way too. But they had some illness within their organization, and so we're finally like really finalizing things. And a component of that is going to be the installation of a mural on the outside of the Youth Services Storytime room. So where that blue wall was and there were stars, we're going to have a mural, and the lovely Sarah Davis is lending her expertise and connections to help us commission an artist to take on that project. So super excited that we're getting some forward momentum on that project too. Definitely looking forward to that. And hopefully we can have all this kind of wrapped up by the time we're ready to reopen the facility. I'm not sure that's going to happen because, as we know, with construction projects, particularly in the time of COVID, they just seem to take a while. But I would love to have it completed by the time we do reopen. So we've been focusing on sprucing up a lot around the building. The meeting room, which was a meeting room and then staged for a temporary computer lab, is now staged for meeting space because we need it for interviewing our potential tech services manager candidates. And then we thought, this is a great opportunity to strip that 20-year-old wallpaper. So after we're done with that, the marvelous Mike, our facility maintenance manager, gets to start stripping wallpaper and resurfacing that room because it's time to get some of this stuff taken care of. And I think that's really it for right now. We're kind of just trudging along. I don't know if you looked at the statistics for the month, but we are only down 32% from last year, which is great. That means it's our best month. So I know it's hard to think about it in those terms, but Curbside is hopping. And the closer we get to getting vaccination and thinking more realistically about what it's going to look like when we are able to reopen, I think the staff are really excited, but also kind of nervous about how we're going to manage book bundles, Curbside, and be open at the same time. But I think we'll figure it out, especially if we kind of phase the reopening as we had planned to do when the time comes. So things are good. We're hanging in there.
Well, I think your point, though, is that after COVID, not all the things that we started doing because of COVID are going to go away.
Exactly.
And I think that's going to be an interesting impact on all of us.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how space utilization and the collection usage and all of it changes when we reopen. I think it could either go one of two ways, where we see people who have just fallen in love with Curbside and they're going to stick with it, or digital books or what have you, and that's where they're going to stay. And then there's going to be the pendulum of people who are just like, I'm coming in the building, I want to browse my stuff myself, I'm going to pick it all out and get my stack of books and like talk to everybody, So it's going to be maybe even a combination of all of it. But I think that we as an organization know that at least Curbside is probably here to stay forever, which is fine. I think it's a great service. And, for folks who just have limited mobility, it's a wonderful service. So that one's here to stay, and probably book bundles too, because they're fun. Hopefully not all the digital.
May I ask?
Sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I was looking at obituaries a week or two ago, and there was an article about the e-books that was in the Johnson City Press. How has that affected the library?
That article about the ebooks is actually from the statewide report of how much people use Reads, which is Overdrive, those books, the ones owned by and purchased largely through the Tennessee State Library. So it's Tennessee Reads. So the state of Tennessee read more content through Overdrive than many, many other groups, Overdrive groups. So we were really excited to see that. And what's super cool now, and we've talked about it before, that the usage in general has just grown exponentially for us. And that's one of the things we'll talk about later with the budget amendment too, is providing more funding for those ebooks and that kind of thing. But Susie, that's part of the reason we decided to go ahead and supplement with Hoopla, which is our additional service. So it's really just the best of both worlds for people, because they can start out in Libby using Reads. And if the book that they want has a really long wait time, they can go ahead and borrow it through Hoopla, and there's no wait time on there. But with Hoopla, we do max you out at 4 checkouts per month because it's a little bit different pricing model. But the two really complement each other nicely for readers. So we were excited to see that article in there too.
Are the gutters on the walkway finished?
They are finished, and funny enough, they need to be cleaned out because there's a tree planted too close to the building, so, which I'd like to have cut down.
Sounds like a Kathy job to me.
Okay, with the chainsaw out there. No, they look, yeah, the gutters are up and they're working. They're doing what they were supposed to do. We need to get it lower. Sorry?
They're not splashing back on the sidewalk?
No, it's working great.
Good.
They did the right size and enough drainage, and it's moving away from the building. The only thing is going to be having that tree removed, which is probably too large and too close to the building. So we'll get that guy, we'll get that taken care of. Hopefully before new leaves start to grow on it and it becomes a messier job than it would be right now. I'm sure Mike wishes we had it taken down before the fall.
First off, I want to just is any other questions for Julia?
Tony, not a question, but just a comment for awareness. So I had the privilege at noon today of listening to Julia, who was the guest speaker at the Rotary Club of Johnson City's weekly meeting. And she did a great job. Many of the things that we heard in her report today, not surprisingly, were things she shared in terms of looking ahead, but generated some good questions and obviously, you know, just sharing with folks who live here about our library. I thought that was great, Julia. So thank you.
Thank you. So it was, you know, it was weird because it was my first time doing a presentation of that style over Zoom. And, you know, when you're screen sharing, you can't really see everybody. So it's impossible to read your audience when you're giving a presentation. So it was interesting. And I look forward to having in-person presentations in my future as opposed to Zoom presentations about the library. But thank you, Scott.
Julia and the rest of the staff, those of you that looked at the wonderful display of all the Christmas trees, I wanted to thank you for, and the rest of the staff, for all the trees and for the one that you did. And I was super impressed with them. To me, that was so much better than the parade. I hope I mean, the parade is great for some folks, but I think that lasted the month, and I saw multiple people down there. I was down there 3 times, so it was a great event, and thank you for participating. I think that's all I have at the moment. So we'll move into Amy's report.
I swear on this screen, it's the mute button's in a different place every time I pull up Zoom. Not too much from us. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday. Over the holiday, we did hear that, I don't know if you all look at the magazines on Reads ever. If you did, you noticed maybe that we got about 1.5 billion new titles. Overdrive just recently purchased RB Digital. So as a thank you to us for subscribing to their magazines in the past, they gave us access to all of their magazine titles. and it's an insane amount of magazine titles. Basically, if it's a magazine you've ever heard of in multiple languages, we have access to it now. So, so we were really excited about that until we opened them up to look at them. And the way they were cataloged by issue. So if you pull up Southern Living, for instance, you get page after page after page after page of individual issues going back however long they had. So, so that frustrated a lot of people who use the magazines, but I will have you know that they have fixed that. It is now cataloged by title. So if you are looking to look at some magazines or to look at different titles, you can just pull it up by Southern Living or Runner's World or whatever it is that you want, and you can choose from a different page. It'll just have the one title, and then you can go somewhere else and choose the issue you want. So it's a lot less cumbersome, and it just works a whole lot better. So the good news with the magazines is that it looks like if Overdrive holds up their end of the bargain, we will be continuing to get all of these titles. We may look at maybe not getting the Swedish language one, but we might keep it, you don't know. But it looks like if they keep the price that they initially quoted us, we should be able to keep all of those magazines, which we're really excited about, because with RB Digital and Zinio going away and us being able to have those available, I know a lot of libraries used those as their magazines, especially right now. So so it looks like we will be keeping those as long as state budget and everything else holds up like we expected to. So that's some good news. Also, speaking of reads, if you are on Facebook at all, Tennessee Reads does have a Facebook page, and that is actually run by our office. So we are doing a winter reading challenge on there. So there will be different challenges throughout the winter. Again, like yours, there's no prizes, nothing but bragging rights involved, because we are state government, so we don't have prizes. But if you follow us on our Facebook page, you'll be able to see all of our winter reading challenges and also additional content too. We try to have fun with it. So, so please, if you haven't, check us out there. Top grant applications are open for next year. They are allowing a little bit more toward, virtual trainings and focusing more in that direction. So if that is of interest to you and you can answer any questions about that, please let us know, and we'll be glad to do that. Other than that, we're just planning for some training. You may notice, or you may not, that my name is different. So my email address is also now different. I got married over the holiday, so now I have a new last name. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. And they took away my old email address. So if you need me for anything or have any questions, my new email is amy.anderson@tn.gov. The other one I will not get. So they cut me off completely with the old one. So so if you need anything at all or have any questions for me ever, please don't hesitate to contact me. When I see you all in person again, I'll have new business cards and everything. But for now, you can just take my word for it.
Kathy, will you be
Questions for
sure?
me at all, I'll be glad to answer them.
Kathy, will you be sure and put that email address in the minutes? Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
How many different languages do we have magazines for in the new, like many?
Many. I know there is, we have another regional director is from Sweden. So I do know that there is one Swedish language magazine, but there's French, Spanish, Chinese, Mandarin, just a whole slew of them. They didn't give us a list or anything, but there's quite a bit. You can search by language on there as well.
Julia, or Amy, I would suggest that you contact the International Student Office out of ETSU and let them know, because I know those students would eat that up, because I know that I talked to them in the past about how expensive it is for them to maintain some subscriptions that they were used to as in their home country. And however else to get that out. But I think that's a whole new audience that we can better serve than we have been with some press release or something. Put my notes over. We're going to move in. Anybody else for Amy? Okay, we're going to move into old business and our regular discussion about opening or reopening and that kind of thing. Julia, comments?
No, I did meet with the other directors in not all of Holston River, but of OWL last week, and all of them were under the plan, or at least plan to advise their board if they had not yet met, to not consider reopening until the 1st of March. So to stay closed through February is the current plan. With the surge, I know there's been some very hopeful news, but cases are still certainly well above what we'd like to see with regard to community transmission before opening the facilities. And this does include Bristol and Kingsport, which had been doing limited access. They're at this point only doing curbside as well. So I think that we would be well served just to stay as we are for the time being. And I'm really very hopeful for a reduction in cases once we start getting more inoculation in the community. So bright spots ahead.
Okay. Comments or issues on that? Okay, Kathy, you want to tell us about all your work you've obviously been doing?
Well, you know me, I'm always shy about talking about money. This is one of those housekeeping type things, and Julia and I have been working with the department heads to make sure that they have what they need as well. So this isn't something where, I'm sitting here doing my magic, and some of it might be magic, who knows, but a lot of it comes from, what do you need right now? What's it going to take to finish out the fiscal year in light of us being closed and perhaps being open a part of the fiscal year, before it ends on June 30. We don't know. Everything is up in the air right now. But the one thing I do know, if you start looking at page 1 of this document and you're looking at revenues, we are not going to be taking in money for fines. And I think this leads us to a broader discussion, and I'm sure that Julia will want to do this later. And it's just to not have fines any longer. And I think it's time to do that. And if there's ever a good time to start, it would be this year, because at this point we will be very lucky to get $300-400 in fines, and we're not counting on it. That's the good thing. We're not counting on the fines to be able to meet our budget. But so that is being reduced as well. And each line item there, you can tell, I'm sorry, thanks, Michael. I just got mail, which hopefully will have some donated money in it. Interest income last year was really good, and we got some great interest on our money market accounts. And because of the pandemic, our generated revenues have gone down. The one thing that has gone up very well is our donations. And we're currently at over $35,000. And by the end of the fiscal year, I anticipate that we'll be closer to that 40. So this is again, housekeeping. I will call your attention to that E-rate reimbursement, because Schools and Libraries Corporation did not get us the money by the end of the second month of the fiscal year. It automatically fell into this fiscal year. So that's a little gravy money that we can put into materials and building issues where we need to shore things up. And what this allows us to do now is to move things around to the point where we have an additional $28,560 in revenue. That, combined with the vacancy savings and personnel, just the one thing is, you can't always count on vacancy savings, but it's always a good thing when you do get it, simply because that's your greatest expense. In any budget year, you are going to have your greatest amount of money spent in that particular account group. And by reducing those and moving people around, we are able to save around $24,000 in personnel. And we could have some more, even by the end of the fiscal year. This is another jumping off point. This is how we start the beginning of the second half of the fiscal year. And then continuing on with support services, we're just not doing those things that would require this money. So we're able to reduce the support services by $2,500. Building operations, this is one of those catch-22s. I don't want to cut all the money out of there because we are here using electricity. We are using the natural gas and water, but we're not using as much. So there could be some additional savings in that. But I will say that we always pay in June once we get the July bill, most of that month was in the old fiscal year. So we end up paying twice in June and we don't pay one in July. I know that's confusing, but I do feel like that this is the year that we could have more savings. And Mike is doing a fabulous job in making sure that this building is being cleaned up, fixed up. We are getting touchless faucets. It's wonderful. So you'll walk in the restroom, you do not touch a faucet, you do not touch the paper towel holder, and you do not touch the soap dispenser. And you can use your paper towel to let yourself out the door. So we are planning on reopening. I'm excited about getting back open as well. I think it's going to be great, but let's prepare now. And then the grounds maintenance, we want to look really good when this new park is opened, and we're going to make sure that we've spent the money to do so. That's not out of the realm of need because we've got mulch, we've got mowing, there's just a lot going on. So that puts some of those savings from support services and additional money from donations or maybe E-rate right there into building operations. That's an increase of $15,200. And then our processing supplies, we don't want to hobble them. Those folks in tech services that process our books, they are so frugal. They're doing an outstanding job. But what do we need? What do we need to do to be better prepared to open? Let's give them an additional $1,000, which is just putting back what they lost last year. That's restoring the budget to where it was the previous fiscal year. Very small amount. And this is where the fun was. This is where Lisa Kreckelberg and Betty Cobb and our new Amy, which is wonderful. She's great in our teen services. This is where they said, hey, this is where I need my money. Okay, this is what we'll do for you. We'll present it to the board, and this allows us to add $14,860 to the services that we are providing. And if you look, it starts at 55071 adult electronic materials. This is where the money's going. Let's get some more electronic for adults and juvenile and for the young adult folks. And then the friends are still supporting us. They didn't go away. We've asked for some things and they've provided it. So there's some friends money as well.
That's
and then
the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program that we just started for our emerging readers. They're funding a free book for every child and a t-shirt who participates. So sorry, I'd love that program.
And I do too. I saw the little badges and the things that they're giving out at CERC, and it is an absolutely wonderful program. And I hope that we can keep it up and even do more this coming year than what we're doing right now, because it's something new and it's just a beautiful thing. Anytime you can encourage that reading at that young age. And so there's adding some of that savings into materials and services. So if you can see a trend, we're getting into building, we're doing materials and services, and we got to get the computers. We have to make sure that Eric Job can do what he needs to do. And he's back. And if Eric's here, he's going to be spending money. That reduction in the equipment is simply because we need it in the LSTA line item. We're not cutting him back to nothing. We're still allowing Eric to have, if you'll notice, quite a bit of money to spend on our needs to better prepare us for opening. But the big chunk of that is going into the LSTA grant. And the additional funds and equipment software maintenance is because we did use Logan Craft Services while Eric was out. Logan is still supporting us minimally because he wrote our program that we use for our timesheets. We put all of our time that we worked into something called Library Tango. And we think ongoing, it's going to save us money by not having to look for some other software, by paying him maybe $50, $100 a month to maintain that. which is a whole lot less than other maintenance agreements if you've ever dealt with those. And that puts some money there in his Eric's account group. The one thing that is a little bit different, security this year, I can't tell you how great those folks have been. Their presence is invaluable because they're here during all of Curbside. We have not had a single instance problem other than some things on the front sidewalk after hours when nobody's really here. Those folks have proved to be invaluable. And where we aren't spending money in somewhere other line item, that's all being spent keeping Johnson City police officers here 11 to 6 Monday through Friday and 9:30 to 1:30 on Saturday. And the fun thing there is our capital projects. That was unfunded at the beginning of the year, but we know now what Essex is going to be charging for our brand new renovations. And I'm so excited. The renderings are gorgeous. And I won't say a whole lot more because the public's going to hear this too. And I want them to be as excited as we are when we open. But that allows us to pay for that project and any incidentals, overruns. I think it will go at least $105,000. And so there you go. We are, and look at the bottom line. The only difference between where we started and the proposal is that $105,000. All we're moving around is money, it's housekeeping, it's putting things in a better location so that we can finish the year, pretty strong. And we may come back to you right before the fiscal year ends and say, hey, I messed up. Could we move some more money around? But I believe that this is a great place to be. Julie and I've looked at it for weeks and the staff's looked at it. So I think that provided that you're happy with it, we'll be good to start January 1 with this budget. And I love questions about money. So, hey, I'm ready.
Questions? Comments?
I do have a question, and I hope you can hear me over the basketball game. But
I can hear you well.
okay, perfect. So, what's the anticipated? I know Julia mentioned like having to have space to do these interviews to fill the vacant spot, and you've talked about it in the budget in terms of the savings that we have as of right now. What's the anticipated timeline to rehire for that spot?
Jennifer, we did our first round of interviews the week before last, and this week we have the second round of interviews. So we're down to 2 candidates, and that will depend a little bit on which candidate. One of them is an internal and one of them is an external. And typically, of course, with an external candidate, it takes a little bit longer. But if we have an internal candidate, then that also means it's another vacancy that we're going to have to hire. So it's hard to anticipate, but I would say it's safely probably at least another 2 to 4 weeks is a fair window to anticipate vacancy savings. But it can be difficult to predict those things. Once we get that person in place, we are fully staffed for the first time in a while. Is that, yeah, I'm saying it out loud. I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
We were able to hire our part-time janitorial position. So we're in really good shape at that point, and hopefully we can stay fully staffed for the remainder of the year.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Okay, other questions? I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
And a second for Darryl. All in favor of approving the revised budget, say aye.
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 Opposed? Great,
Thank you.
great. Darryl has an idea and some thoughts that he would like to share with us. And I want to give you the floor, Darryl.
Thank you, Tony. Julia approached me not too long ago about the issue of a DNI statement. And I thought that was a great idea. These can be tricky. And so you got to be kind of careful about that. We're not sometimes they read as political statements as opposed to statements of mission and whatnot. And so I think that we can develop a statement relatively quickly, in which will verbalize our support for the equity and inclusion and equality of all of our employees, all of our customers, et cetera. And so basically what we need to do is to come up with a brief statement. Some statements, if you look online, are very long. I don't think that's beneficial. People tend to tune those out very quickly, and a lot of people won't even read them all. I don't like reading them all. So what I want to see when I look at a statement is that, one, you have a statement, two, that it's a well-crafted statement, and three, that it takes into consideration the need to demonstrate that we support and all men, women, minorities, elderly people, disabled, LGBTQ, and anything else that we need to do, so that people know that when they come to Johnson City Public Library, either for work or for play, then that they are going to a place that will respect them, that will appreciate them for who they are, and that, for lack of a better way of saying it, that this is a safe zone for them. And so I told Julie I thought the best way to do that is to keep it, in our hands, and then to send a statement to the employees and get some feedback from them, so that they can feel included in the process. Plus, they may have some ideas that we don't have, and then we can adopt this relatively quickly over the period of the next 2 or 3 weeks, certainly before the next meeting in February. Julia, have I accurately summarized all that?
That's fantastic. And I think Darryl and I both agreed that February would be a wonderful time to adopt it, not only as Black History Month, but also we're wrapping up our Own Voices series. So I think it's a really good plan, and I'm glad that he came up with it.
Well,
May I say something?
sure.
If it's brief enough and clear enough that you could put it in 1 or 2 sentence form at the bottom of our printed letters, we found that to be very useful at the hospital foundation. And I can imagine that would promote the library well.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I can't promise that it'll be 1 or 2 sentences, but I can guarantee it'll be a very short paragraph. Maybe 5 sentences or something like that. And what we can do there is to create an even briefer version of that, maybe to do exactly what you're talking about, which is to put it on our outgoing correspondence and things of that nature. But we definitely need a full fleshed out statement. So I think we can do both. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. I love the idea of having it on our press releases, our job advertisements, and things like that, and really just being open and making the statement in our outgoing correspondence. I like that a lot.
And we want to see it publicly displayed at an entrance and that kind of thing too. So unless there is some objection from the group, I will put together a small little task group with Darryl and Julia and 1 or 2 of you if you want to volunteer, and we will work on a draft to get out to you by the time the material goes out for the February meeting. Darryl, does that sound like a working approach?
Yes, and if the board wants, I can draft a rough draft of a statement, and in the next few days, and sometime by middle of next week, and then I can send it to Tony and Julia for distribution to the entire board, and then we can go from there and kind of chop it up and make it work. Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. And then selfishly, before I forget, I'll be talking on Zoom for the library here soon about James Baldwin's Go Tell It on the Mountain. So
great.
tell your friends.
Will do. Any other thoughts, concerns about that discussion with Darryl? Darryl, thank you, and Julia, for bringing that up and making that a part of the library. I think that's critical to do. I'm proud to be a part of that. I don't have anything else to talk about. I'm going to go sailing unless.
I'll complete Darryl's plug. His program is Tuesday the 2nd at 6 p.m. So if you want to see him talk about, go tell him.
Is there going to be something sent out about that? Because I'm in 3 book clubs. I can send it around.
Go ahead, Darryl.
Hunter reached out to me today, and he's gonna do an interview with me, so I guess he can do some of that publicity on Thursday. So it should be right after that. I just responded to his email earlier today.
Great.
Great.
Anything else for the good of the order, folks? All right. Thank you very much. Yes.
Can I say
Susan.
one thing that just came to my mind?
Yes.
When you mentioned something on the kindergarten, as you can imagine, on Zoom in a hospital, I don't get every word, but I was just thinking with the park being developed and you reaching out to kindergartners, if I understood correctly, it might be interesting to get the directors of the preschools that are around town, invite them and let them see if we couldn't create something that would pull kindergarten age to the library. That's just a thought, and I don't have any ideas developed, but I just was thinking maybe we ought to go after a lot of introduction.
That's a great point, Susie.
Dovetail it with the opening of the park, and maybe kids love contests to win, and it might be some way we could create a contest that if they come to the park and walk over to the library, they get, so many points, or I don't know. Just let this concept mull over.
One thing that's kind of exciting that we're a part of in King Commons in the park in that area, they're going to be placing they're little concrete sculptures, and so they're devising a scavenger hunt. And Donna, one of our youth services librarians, is helping create the clues for the scavenger hunt in King Commons. And so kiddos can come here and pick up a rat card with their little scavenger hunt and then go and find them all down there. So it's kind of fun. But to your point about the preschool directors, I think you're right in that when we do reopen, we're going to have a lot of work to do to reestablish those relationships, because we don't even know if the director we knew a year ago is still in place at some of these centers. And so it'll be not a battle, but certainly a journey for us to go and reintroduce ourselves to the childcare centers to make sure they know they can come here with the kids and that it's a welcoming place for all of them. We should just assume they're going to come a flock in just because we say the doors are open. So thank you for that reminder, Susie.
Well, I hope it won't be a forever deal that we have to have our meetings on Zoom. I sure miss the in-person meetings.
Me too.
I do too. Well, Susie and I and Sarah and anybody else that feels senior enough, we're all going to be in first in line as soon as they start giving us some COVID shots. So look out, because we elbow each other.
Well, I've already had my first one.
Well, congratulations. I'm envious.
Yes.
All right.
You need to call the wellness center and get an appointment, Tony.
Ooh, the Wellness Center. Okay. So
Yeah,
we're spreading information.
Good.
I will call us adjourned and thank all of you for your participation, and stay safe.